Hello anatomy students. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. This is video 13. This is review for the midterm. So hopefully this is going to be the quickest, most straightforward video we've done yet. So partly because we've already talked about it in class, what you need to know for the midterm, but the midterm is coming up on Friday. It's very straightforward. Hopefully nobody's going to have any problem with it. So here's a rundown on what you need to know. You need to know your directional terms. You need to know your regional terms. You need to know your planes, and you definitely need to know your movements. Movements are a very significant part of the midterm. And then you need to be able to identify essentially any muscle that we've talked about, with the exception of some of the small ones like subclavius and coracobrachialis and the deeper hand muscles. I'm not going to ask you to label those, but for the most part, any of the rest of the muscles that we have gone over, you need to be able to label those on a diagram. So that, what I just said, covers the vast majority of the midterm. The other piece that's on it is actions. And so so movements is a big piece, but then knowing what muscles do each of the movements is important also. And so as you're, because you're kind of new in this whole anatomy thing, I don't expect you to necessarily have every single muscle down with every attachment and every action that it does at this point. But, if you can, let me say this. I forgot to mention in class, and maybe you saw it on the page, on the Populi page for the class, that I did do a supplemental video that goes through each of the movements of the upper body and all of the muscles that participate in each of those movements. So that's a good review video for you to use for the action piece of the midterm. So the other piece on the midterm is, I'll give you an action, say shoulder flexion or shoulder abduction or elevation of the scapula or retraction of the scapula or wrist flexion or whatever, and you need to be able to tell me a muscle that does that action, and just one muscle for each of the actions that I am asking you about, and maybe there's like 6 actions or something like that. So all in all, I think you're not going to find it. The other thing is labeling the bones. I can't forget that part. So there's a fair amount of labeling the bones, the name of the bones, but then all of the landmarks that we went over, at least landmarks that are easily visible on any of the diagrams that I gave you. And so labeling bones, labeling landmarks, labeling muscles, identifying what muscles do some of the actions that I'll be asking you about, identifying the movements, and then the terms, all of the terms that we talked about. Everything, now I'm not completely done putting the test into Populi yet, but everything should be, you should have choices to choose from. So, there'll be like matching sections. So you're not pulling it out of thin air. You're not filling in the definition of things. I'm giving you definitions and you're just matching them up. So that sort of thing. So you'll have names of muscles to choose from when it comes to labeling, and landmarks and joints. Be able to label joints too. Landmarks, joints, and bones, I'll give you the names of them, and then you just need to plug them in and label things correctly. Okay, so text me or email me if you have any other questions, but that's the rundown of what is on the midterm. And so I'll see you guys in class on Friday, and you'll knock that midterm out without a problem. And then, and I bet after that you're going to feel like moving on to video 14, the skull, which is a good one because the skull is really cool. And video 15 is muscles of the head, which I'm going to make this afternoon. So, anyway, cool stuff coming up. Midterm, though, is the main focus at the moment. Let me know if you have any questions, but I'm sure you guys are ready. Okay, see you next video.